Welcome to the Chronicles, told by the Chronikle. Cases of the missing, murdered, and unsolved. I'd like to thank everyone for watching today, and don't forget to head over to thecertifiedchronikle.com, where you'll find source information for today's episode. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss a case. Before we get started, I would like to thank Twisted Gorilla for partnering with me. If you love funny, sarcastic t-shirts and accessories, head over to twistedgorilla.com, where a portion of every sale goes to the Diane Fossey International Fund. Use code THERORACLE at checkout for 15% off. Once again, that's code THERORACLE for 15% off at checkout. A link will be in the description box below. Let's get started with Chronicle number 18, the Brittany Phillips case. The year was 2004. The Boston Red Sox won the World Series for the first time since 1918. Shrek 2 had families swarming to the cinemas for a fun-filled family time. Book readers were flocking to get their hands on a copy of the Da Vinci Code, while music lovers were glued to the television watching American Idol. Gamers were excited at Microsoft's release of Halo 2. Meanwhile, teens were listening to Usher's all-new song Yeah and Drop It Like It's Hot by Snoop Dogg. Dressed in hip huggers and sporting any color eyeliner in your all-new blazer, you were headed over to a Friends to be one of the 22 million people who tuned in to watch the last episode of Friends. Finally, Facebook was launched from a Harvard dorm room, making way in the future to help parents like Brittany Phillips spread awareness about her daughter's case and one day get the justice she deserves. Brittany E.S. Phillips was born in St. Petersburg, Florida on October 4th, 1985. Brittany had a brother, Josh, who was a mere 15 months older than her. Growing up, they were close as they attended school and knew many of the same people. Still, they were siblings, and that comes with the usual sibling rivalry and fights. Brittany was delivered by cesarean section and would suffer some complications at birth. She would make a quick recovery and grow into a lovely little girl with flowing blonde curls who loved to participate in dance and gymnastics. Her mother, Dr. Maggie Zingman, said Britty, as she calls her, was fearless, very smart, and beautiful. Brittany had lived in Florida when she was born. However, her mother moved to Kentucky to be with her father before divorcing him and taking Brittany and Josh and settling in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where she would be a single mother. She and her daughter were close, and as she grew, the bond would only strengthen. It amazed Brittany's friends how open she was with her mom. As she entered high school, she would be in the top of her class, receiving a full-ride scholarship to Eckerd University in St. Petersburg, the same college her mother had attended. Brittany was excited and nervous to start school. She had graduated at only 17 years old because when she lived in Kentucky, she was able to start kindergarten a year early. Most would have thought she would be hindered academically, but she was not. She thrived and did better than most in school. When she decided on a major, she settled on chemistry, as her paternal grandmother had passed away due to cancer during her senior year, and it was very hard on Brittany. She vowed to devote her life to finding a cure for the disease. She was on her way to doing just that before tragedy would strike. While Brittany was away at Eckerd, she made friends and got a job as a waitress. However, she wanted to be home and longed for it. After she finished her freshman year, she decided she wanted to come back to Tulsa. This was great news. Her mom and brother were happy she was coming back home. Maggie had taken a job as a psychiatrist at a women's correctional facility in Chandler, Oklahoma, an hour away from Tulsa. The plan Brittany had made was to move back to Tulsa and take some classes at the local college and earn credits before moving up to Chandler with her mom. Things were going as planned. Maggie and Brittany went to look at the Glen Eagles apartment complex located at 9416 East 65th Street. After looking at some apartments and Maggie checking the area for crime and sex offenders, both of which were extremely low, Brittany and her mom decided it was a good fit. She knew the area, and Union High School was right across the street from the complex, the same school she and her brother had graduated from. The beginning of May 2004, Brittany would move into the second-floor unit located on the end of the building with a private balcony located off the bedroom just beyond the French doors. It would even have enough room for all her clothes and shoes, as it featured a walk-in closet every young girl dreams of. As she settled into her new apartment, she would begin working at a local restaurant and taking 16 hours of classes at college a week. Brittany had a group of friends whom she would hold study sessions with each week. Someone would host at their home where people usually stayed all night. Brittany had also begun dating, as she was a very beautiful young lady. She had modeled here and there when she was a teenager and was even signed by a modeling agency and asked to move to New York. However, Maggie said no, that she did not want that lifestyle for her daughter. This did not seem to bother Britt. Shortly after being back in Tulsa, Brittany would go on a date with a security guard who was strange and creepy, something she would call her mom and tell her after the date. The man would keep pursuing her, even after she told him she did not want to see him anymore. He continued to call her, and at some point she had to block his number. Maggie said she was relieved when Brittany brought a nice young man she was dating out to Chandler on a visit. It was nice to see the security guard was gone, her mother said. As the months passed, her routine was the same, and she was looking forward to the weekend and a visit to see her mom. That visit would never come. Monday, September 27, 2004, was a routine day. Brittany had classes, and her seasonal allergies were bothering her horribly. She decided to head to the urgent care and get something for this. However, she waited hours, and she still had not been seen. Frustrated, she left, never seeing a doctor. She was so upset she called her mom and told her what was going on. Maggie told her daughter not to fret. She would get her into the doctor in Chandler when she came up on Friday. Brittany agreed to this and told her mom she had a late class to attend, then she would drop her friend off and head home and go to bed, as she wasn't feeling great. Before hanging up, the two exchanged I love yous, never knowing it would be the last time. After hanging up from her mom, Brittany picked her friend up and headed to the college. Once there, she ran into her brother Josh, and they talked briefly before they made their way to class. Around 9:45 p.m., she dropped her friend off and headed back to her apartment, still not feeling well from the allergies. She just wanted to curl up in bed and sleep. On Tuesday, September 28th, Brittany was not in class. Her friends did take notice, but knew she had not been feeling well, so they thought that was why she did not show up. Maggie also tried to call her daughter. It rang and rang with no answer. A voicemail was left telling Brittany to call her back. At this point, Maggie was not worried. She figured she had gotten busy and would hear from her later. They usually talk daily, but sometimes when classes or her work was busy, they may not talk every day. Maggie believed this was the reason her little girl had not answered. On Wednesday, September 29th, she was still not showing up for classes, which was now super out of character for her. She had also not called her mom back, which was giving Maggie cause for concern. Maggie would call and leave another message for Brittany, telling her to call her back immediately, that she was probably okay, but she wanted to make sure because she had not heard from her. This was not like Brittany. She was always punctual to class, and she would not go without talking to her mom. Where was she, and what had happened? Thursday, September 30th, 2004, when Brittany was not in class, her friend began to really become concerned. Maggie was also becoming more worried about her Brittany. She would try and call her around 9 p.m., and once again she received no answer. And like before, she told her daughter to call back right away, as she was worried that she had not heard from her. After Brittany's friend finished classes that night, she headed over to check on Britt. Her dad was the district attorney and former police officer, so while she walked up the stairs, she called her dad. As she knocked, no one answered. She would then check the door and see if it was unlocked, and shockingly it was. Something that gave a fright to her, as she knew Brittany would never leave her door unlocked. Her dad was still on the line and told her to not go into the apartment. She did what he said, however she did open the door a crack before shutting it. Her father told her he would send a police officer over to do a welfare check on Brittany. The friend would wait until the police officer arrived, which was a little before 10 p.m., not too long after she had arrived at the apartment. When the police officer went inside, nothing was amiss, until he went into the bedroom. where he found a lifeless young female lying on the floor. It is curious that if the friend opened the door, one would think that she may have smelled something was off. I'm not sure if she did and told her father, and that was something that has not been released. The officer would state the female was lying on the ground with her head away from the headboard. She was wearing a sleeveless shirt and underwear. The officer and detectives would say these looked as if they were put on her after she was deceased. The body of the young girl would be identified by police using her driver's license. Maggie was not alerted before the body was taken to the medical examiner's office. Maggie was notified when an officer in Chandler knocked on her door and very coldly told her that her daughter had been murdered and she needed to go call Tulsa Police Department. Maggie was in shock. Surely it could not be her daughter. They must have the wrong person, she thought. She would get in her vehicle and rush to her daughter's apartment that was an hour away. When she pulled up, all she saw were flashing lights, and she knew then it was true that she had lost her baby girl. A mother's living nightmare. Maggie would ask an officer if it was true, and when he confirmed it, she told him she wanted to see her daughter. To her surprise, she had already been taken to the medical examiner's office. Maggie raced to the medical examiner's office, and there she demanded to see her daughter. The medical examiner would allow this, but not her face. He would cover it with a thin white towel. He told Maggie she would not recognize her, and he did not want her to remember her loved one like that. Maggie did not remove the towel. Instead, she went over to her daughter and lovingly rubbed her thumb down her forehead, down the bridge of her nose, as she had done so many times before to comfort her daughter. This would be the final time she was able to do this, and with that, she told her daughter goodbye. Jeff Felton, who was the lead homicide detective on the case, found an abundance of forensic evidence at the scene. This is great, he thought. It would be an open and shut case. He could not have been more wrong. They would take a bedsheet from the bed that was believed to have urine stains on it. However, when it was tested, they found it was semen. A very small speck of blood was found on a wall leading out of the bedroom. It should be noted that I have read and heard elsewhere there was a towel found next to the body. However, this has not been confirmed. All 4 windows were missing their screens. That was something odd, as it was believed they were all there when she moved in. Fingerprints were lifted, but were too smudged to come back with a match from the screens. The police also believe the killer may have taken them out to stage the scene to look like a break-in, as there was no signs of forced entry into the apartment. This led them to believe she may have known the attacker and willingly let him in. They also believe he left out the front door as it was unlocked. Nothing had been stolen, and the only sign of anything out of place was in the bedroom, where the police said it looked as if she had been shoved up against the wall, opposite from where she was found. She had put up a fight against her attacker. Her fingernails were scraped, and it was found she had blood underneath them, but it was not enough to get a DNA profile. Police would begin focusing on the semen and a small blood stain found on the wall. Brittany had been dead for 3 days before she was found. No one at the complex seen or heard anything during this time, nor did anyone complain of an odor. Someone had sexually assaulted the young woman, although there was not enough semen left to extract. Then they strangled her and left her there, going on to live their life while destroying someone else's whole world. Who had done this, and what was their motive? On October 4, 2004, on what would have been Brittany's 19th birthday, she was laid to rest with family and friends paying their respect to the girl next door that everyone loved so much. Meanwhile, the police were getting mouth swabs from all of her friends and family, testing to see if someone matched the crime scene DNA. When no one matched, they extended the search further to neighbors in the complex that she lived at, and classmates both in Tulsa and Florida. No one was a match. The young man she was dating was questioned, and his DNA was tested, and it was not a match. He was cleared. Maggie remembered the creepy security guard and told police about him. When they asked him for DNA, he refused. This was a red flag. They would get a court order for his DNA. However, he did not match either. The DNA was even run through CODIS, and nothing came back. It felt as though the case was growing colder by the minute, and Maggie would not let that happen. She wanted justice for Brittany, and she was going to do everything she could to get her daughter's story out there in hopes of catching her killer. Meanwhile, the police were also following a lead on how the killer got in. On the second day of the investigation, it was found that there was access to an attic via Brittany's walk-in closet, which could have been how the killer gained entry. Police wanted to know, did he come into her apartment before she was home or after she got there? This is something unknown to this day. With nothing new coming in by 2007, the police would hold a press conference and release new information. A pale purple pillowcase was left behind at the scene. Police believed it did not belong to Brittany, as she had no others like it. Nothing would come of this, and police now believe perhaps it was Brittany's, as hers was the only DNA found on it. This would be the same year Maggie would get her van wrapped in Brittany's favorite color, purple, and place her photos all over it with hopes of someone knowing something about that night. Maggie would call her tours Caravan to Catch a Killer, and would travel for 3 weeks trying to gain national attention for her daughter. At this time, only 15 states took DNA upon arrest. The others only took it if a conviction was made. Maggie felt that DNA should be taken upon arrest, and that would stop crimes and also help solve them. She was on a mission to spread her daughter's case and let everyone know the importance of DNA. By 2017, Maggie would get the bill signed into law that upon arrest in Oklahoma, DNA be taken. However, due to lack of funding, this is still not being done. It was a win and a loss for the case in the state. Maggie would not give up, and the caravan traveled on. With advancements in DNA, police were hopeful once again that they were going to solve this case. In 2018, Parabon Nanolabs would phenotype the DNA found and create a snapshot based on this. While it would not be an exact match, it would give an idea of what the suspect had looked like. The police said the suspect was a white male of Northern European descent. He had dark blonde or brown hair with blue or green eyes. His age was unknown, although the snapshot is aged around 25 years, as that is the standard age done in the DNA snapshot. Maggie nor Josh recognized the man in the snapshot. However, Maggie said this was someone her daughter would have found attractive. Could she have been seeing someone secretly? It is possible, but not likely she would cheat on someone she was seeing, as it was mentioned she had a boyfriend of sorts. The image would generate around 200 tips, and nothing panned out. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation would put Brittany's face on playing cards with a brief description of her murder. These were sold to prisoners in hopes of someone talking about one of the crimes on the cards. This would turn up nothing as well. Everywhere they turned and everything they tried was a dead end. The case was cold once more, but Maggie was still on a mission in her van to spread the information to any and everyone she could. It was on one of her tours she received a phone call that should have been excellent news, but once again it was not. By 2019, Detective Felton had retired and Detective Eddie Majors had taken over. The DNA that was found and phenotyped was run through GEDmatch, a DNA genealogy service, to see if they could get a match to a close relative and go from there to find a suspect. When ran through GEDmatch, an exact hit came back. The suspect had entered his DNA to an online ancestry service. Around this same time, someone recognized the man in the photo and called the police with a name. It was the same name that matched the DNA. It should be noted that on Reddit, link will be below, or at thecertifiedoracle.com, it has some interesting things to say about the man it turned in. I highly recommend you head over and read it. The man was quickly brought in to be questioned. He told them he and his girlfriend had stayed there the weekend before, and they had slept in Brittany's bed and had sex. That is why his semen was there. It should be noted that I do not know why he told police the speck of blood was found. The police would go on to question him extensively and felt because they did not find his DNA on her body, he was not the killer. There was no airtight alibi for him, just he did not do it based on this. The police released that for 15 years they had been tracking the wrong person, and now the killer could be anyone. even someone they had cleared in the past. It should be noted it is not known why the friend never came forward when the photo was released. It has been said she thought the semen was found inside Brittany and not on the sheets. It seems now the killer's description is unknown. He could be of any age and race. This was devastating news for Maggie. She thought the call was going to be, "We finally got the guy." Instead, it was, "We found him and cleared him." Maggie will not give up. She is on a journey to spread awareness of her beautiful daughter's case, because you never know who holds the key to solving this. Maggie is still traveling today and will continue until Brittany's case is solved. There are as many unanswered questions as they have answers to, and now it seems back to the drawing board as the case remains unsolved. If you have any information on this case, no matter how small you believe it is, please call 596-COPS. Once again, that's 596-COPS. There is a $6,000 reward leading to the arrest and conviction of Brittany's killer. I would like to thank everyone for watching, and hit that like and subscribe button so I can continue to help families of the missing, murdered, and unsolved. As always, this is the Chronikle, signing off.